Hello and welcome to Elder Small. Today in this session, I'd like to pick up where we left off at. This is session 2. In the last session, session 1, we were reviewing chapter 2 of my book, You Deserve More. This is the second session, 2 of 2. You can pick up this book at eldersmall.com. It would make a excellent addition to your library. But today, I'd like to begin this session by once again referring to the writings of Gerald Massey. Gerald Massey says that Kemet and not India is the common cradle of all we have in common, from the east to the west, north and south, all over the world. Kemet is the what we all have in common. He described Kemet as an enormous tree with a vast root system that supports branches that extend all over the entire globe. This statement is backed up by the many books written by Dr. Ashby concerning the spiritual philosophies and science of ancient Kemet. In his books, Dr. Ashby covers Kemite mythology, spirituality, philosophy, psychology, symbology, evolution, language, and much more. He examines Kemite culture and institutions and how they correlate with Indian mysticism, he provides evidence that proves that the spiritual philosophies of Kemet and India overlap and correspond with one another. His books are ripe with detailed analysis, parallels, and juxtapositions of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and many other and other ancient texts. What these ancient texts have in common is that they were written before the Old and New Testaments. They all delineate life as a continuous cycle without a set beginning and without a set end. This suggests that life is not linear with a fixed starting point and a fixed end, so that death is not the end of life. It is only a passageway wherein life returns to its primordial state of pure energy. Life is the substance of eternity. Mainstream world religions have programmed us to believe that Yahweh, God, Allah, etc., are infinite and that human beings are finite. However, the spiritual sciences of both Asia of both Africa and India teach that human beings, the universe, and all life forms emanate from the Supreme Being. Therefore, the universe, human beings, and all other aspects of creation are infinite manifestations of the Supreme Being and cannot be deemed finite. There is no proof that human beings are finite anywhere in the history of spiritual science. Indian mysticism gives control to the individual, as it is ourselves who ushered our bodies and personalities into existence. And because we live in a cycle of birth and death, we will continue shaping our destiny beyond what we know as death, because cessation of life is not possible for the individual. In the Bhagavad Gita, we are told that everything we do produces karma in the mind. Our thoughts and actions are seeds planted in our minds, and how we nurture our seeds determines whether we ascend to heaven or reincarnate here on earth. Indian mysticism engenders a path that leads to spiritual enlightenment, which corresponds in many ways to the Kemetic spiritual science. In both systems, karma is defined by our thoughts and actions and remains active beyond death. Our thoughts and actions have consequences because they register impressions in our unconscious minds. Therefore, they can hinder our liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Human life is inextricably the result and will of the spirit to recreate in order to experience physical realities. This is important because, according to Kemet spiritual science, before the spirit incarnated in human beings, cosmic order was established by Ma'at. Dr. Ashby tells us that Ma'at is a spiritual philosophy, a spiritual symbol, as well as a cosmic energy or force that pervades the whole universe, the entire universe. She is the symbolic embodiment of world order, justice, righteousness, correctness, balance, harmony, and peace. Ma'at is the embodiment of spiritual philosophy. It is a philosophy that delineates or underlies the difference between good and evil, between right and wrong, therefore bad karma and good karma. Over the ages, people have wrestled with truth, integrity, and living decent lives, while others have wrestled with evil, lies, and living for pleasure. All human beings who enter the physical world as spiritual beings in physical bodies will experience a wrestling match between their ego, desire, pleasure, selfishness, and their souls, minds, hearts, and the idea of selflessness. Spiritual awareness is the key to winning, while maintaining a sense of sanity, peace, order, and positive relations with others. The same spiritual awareness is necessary to understand how the physical world coexists with the spirit world. That is, how matter coexists with energy and the interaction of the two, which are taking place at all times. In session 1 of this 2-part review, I thought it was important to spend some time talking about the story as told, the creation story as told in the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17 says, "And the Lord commanded man, saying, Every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." And so, think about this story for a minute. Think about the apple that both Adam and Eve ate, consumed, or I could say ingested. The body was created from the earth, and then we are told that God breathed into man the breath of life, that is, the spirit or the soul. Then God spoke to Adam and Eve, warning them not to eat the apple, but no restrictions were placed on anything else. Thus, we see that Adam and Eve were confronted with a choice: be good and do not eat the apple, or commit an evil act and eat the apple. There's a sense of confusion here, as before they ate the apple, they were confronted with a choice between right and wrong, good and evil. Here we seemingly have the presence of an oxymoron, that is, the presence of a contradiction, a blatant contradiction. And so Looking at Genesis, the Genesis story, through the lenses of Kemite spiritual science, we can proffer that the body is made from earth, from nature, and that the apple is likened unto the spirit, which when eaten represents the spirit incarnating in the physical body. Once the spirit incarnates, the spirit being pure goodness, it becomes subject to the inclinations of the physical body, of the physical world. Thus, eating the forbidden fruit is the equivalent of incarnation. For the spirit knows no darkness and experiences no evil until it incarnates in the body. In Kemetic spiritual science, we are told that Ma'at was among the first emanations in creation, and she was an intrinsic element in the emanation or manifestation of human beings. Therefore, we can infer that when the spirit is entombed in the body of flesh, it entertains experiences germane to physical existence. And though the body of flesh engages in temporal affairs, once the spirit discards the body of flesh, the negative confessions are the confessions of the soul, are the confessions of the spirit. And so the spirit confesses, I have not done evil. I have not stolen. I have not been covetous. I have not robbed. I have not killed people. I have not reduced the requirements of the temple. I have not done fraudulent things. I have not stolen the property of God. I have not told lies. I have not taken away food. I have not been ill-tempered. I have not transgressed. I have not killed sacred cattle. I have not extorted. I have not stolen bread rations. I have not eavesdropped. I have not been talkative. I have not contended except concerning my own property. I have not committed fornication. I have not committed adultery. I have not caused fear. I have not misled. I have not been hot-tempered. I have not been deaf to the words of truth. I have not caused strife. I have not winked at injustice. I have not practiced illicit sex. I have not been false. I have not quarreled with another. I have not been aggressive. I have not been impatient. I have not misrepresented my nature. I have not gossiped. I have not done evil. I have not reviled the king. I have not waded in the water. I have not been loud of voice. I have not blasphemed God. I have not been immodest. I have not made distinction of others from myself. I have not had needs greater than my own property. I have not reviled the divinity of my city. And so, having incarnated or having eaten the apple, the spirit, the apple, discards the body, and the spirit utters the negative confessions. And likewise, in chapter 1, or going back to session 1, I also quoted Genesis 1:26, first chapter, 26th verse, where it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness." Basically, what we have here are nouns that inform us that we are the image and likeness of God. That's it. Everything else we must figure out for ourselves. I can only speculate as to why the Old Testament writers chose not to explicate or expound on the composition and nature of human beings. Nevertheless, the Kemite priests left records informing us that there are 9 aspects of human composition, of which the physical body is one aspect of human composition, that being the non-permanent aspect. The 9 aspects of human composition, according to Kemite priests, are as follows. There is the cat, which was defined as the physical body that included its personality and would decay over time. The body and its personality would decay over time. The cat, that is the physical body, the bone, skin, blood, sense organs, etc., neither leaves the tomb nor reappears on earth. Then there's the Sahu. While the body lies in the tomb, its mental and spiritual attributes unite in its spiritual double or spiritual body. Thus it can ascend into heaven and dwell with the gods, with the Sahu of the gods, and the souls of the righteous. Then there is the Ka. The Ka is the personality or ego self. It is also considered to be the ethereal body possessing the power of locomotion, the power to leave, to travel. It survives the death of the body, as it is the ethereal double containing the other parts of the personality. In reality, the physical body is the projection of the astral body, the Ka. And then there's the Kahu, which has been translated as the Shiny One, glorious and intelligent. In other instances, it is translated Spirit. It relates to the pure spiritual essence of a human being whose mind is pure and clear. It is the Spirit, which is immortal. Next, there's the Ba. The Ba is the heart or soul which dwells in the Ka with the power of metamorphosis, sometimes described as the soul or higher self. It is seen as a spark of the universal Ba, a spark, the presence of God. The Ba can be dialogue with and can be a spiritual guide to the developing individual. When the soul has no more use for the physical body, it discards it and returns to the universal Ba if it is enlightened. If it is not enlightened, it will turn into another aggregate of elements to make another body, that is, to reincarnate. Then there is the Kabit. The Kabit is the shadow of a person. It is, or it was supposed to have an entirely independent existence and to be able to separate itself from the body. It was free to move wherever it pleased, and like the Ba and Ka, it partook of the funeral offerings in the tomb, which it could visit at will. Next, there was the Kabit, that is the shadow. The shadow was associated with the soul and was believed to always be near it. This is supported by the following passage from the Book of the Dead. Let not be shut up my soul. Let not be fettered my shadow. Let be open the way for my soul and for my shadow. May it see the great God, and may I look upon my soul and my shadow. And so next was the Ab. The Ab represents the heart. It is the repository of unconscious impressions, that is, karma, which was gathered from experiences from both our current and previous lives. The desires and illusions, that is, the karma deposited in the heart, is why it is seen as both the source of incarnation or the mother of reincarnation. Then there was the Shekim, which is defined as life force or power that exists in the universe. As such, it is the power or spiritual personification of the vital life force in human beings. The dwelling place of the Shekim, is heaven, as all life draws upon it to exist. And lastly, there was the Ren, which means name. The name is an essential attribute of human beings, as there's no existence without a name. Everything that comes into existence receives a name. And so, in summary, human beings consist of a spiritual body, a heart, a double, a soul, a shadow, an intangible ethereal casing of spirit, a form, and a name, which are all eternal, immortal, and evolving towards osmosis with the Supreme Being. The key to understanding how human beings are composed is understanding that all the elements listed above are bound together inseparably. Thoughts, actions, passions, and desires are all deposited in the bank of consciousness. And once in the bank of consciousness, they are secured in safe deposit boxes of higher consciousness, which is the essence of all 9 elements of human composition. This concept of unity and oneness is not confined to the constitution of human beings. It is also present in the cosmos. All of creation is an emanation of divine energy. And though manifested in millions and millions of forms, all life forms contain life. Thus, life can be acknowledged or perceived as the substance of eternity. Again, we entertain the question, is the birth of a newborn baby the creation of a new soul? As we continue exploring the answer to this question, let me say that the concept of a newborn soul is not present in Kimite, Near Eastern, Asiatic, or Indian spiritual science. Across the board, the human soul is an emanation of divine energy, an emanation of God, that being immortal and eternal. The journey of the human soul is evolutionary in the sense that the human souls incarnate in physical bodies, and once the body is of no more use, it is discarded. It dies, and the soul enters the astral realm, where elements are composed for a new body in which the soul will be reborn. This process continues until the soul attains, in the world of Indian mysticism, spiritual enlightenment. And so that concludes session 2. This is just a reflection of the content that is present in chapter 2 of You Deserve More. Again, this would be an excellent addition to your library. Meanwhile, as I conclude this session, let me say dua, thank you, ashe, we are one, and may you be blessed with supreme goodness and intellectual greatness. Ashe, dua.